Am I the jerk for voicing my concerns about my child to my in-laws? Am I the jerk for voicing my concerns to my in-laws about my son, my wife, a 26-year-old female, and I, a 26-year-old male, have a 1-year-old son? My wife's parents live 2.5 hours away, but they consciously want to have a good relationship with our son. This weekend was going to be their first time taking care of our son without us. They planned to stay at a hotel with our son. Before checking into the hotel that day, they spent the morning with us and our son. This is where flags were raised for me and my wife. The flags raised were as follows. When my father-in-law was watching my son walking around on a couch, my father-in-law was watching his phone instead of watching him attentively because he could easily fall. They left my son unattended with a plate full of food. My mother-in-law left my father-in-law with my son, and my father-in-law was sleeping, while my son had a plate with berries and Cheerios. We voiced our concerns and reminded them that we would like it if they were watching our son, not to be on their phone and be more attentive, and if he was eating, not to leave him unattended. My father-in-law told me that he was only half asleep, but when I went outside to check on them, he did not even know I was in the room with them. My mother-in-law told me that the berries were cut up small and that she deals with kids my son's age all the time and that my son means the world to them and I should trust them. They did not say, "Okay, we will not leave your child unattended while eating." Instead, it was things like, "We are his grandparents, you need to trust us." I stated that I am the type of person where people have to gain my trust versus giving someone my trust initially. My in-laws took offense to this and felt like I don't trust them. When I really was not attacking them personally, I just told them how I operate with trust. I apologized to them for offending them and tried to make it clear that it was not a personal attack, but just how I think. But they really took offense to the point where they ended up not taking our son for the night. There was a part where I personally feel disrespected by my in-laws. In the hotel, they were planning to co-sleep with our son. My wife and I don't agree with co-sleeping and offered to pay the hotel for an extra crib. My in-laws told me no on getting the crib around 4 times in a back and forth. At this point, I just feel like they are not respecting our wishes as parents. Now my wife and I are also on disagreeing terms because she believes that both sides are magnifying the disrespect on both sides. But personally, I feel that my in-laws are the ones who are doing the disrespecting. Now, am I the antagonist for being so firm about my son to my in-laws? Is my wife wrong for not being on my side? Are my in-laws the antagonists? Am I a helicopter parent? It's totally reasonable to set boundaries for your son's care and ensure he is supervised while eating. Co-sleeping is not recommended anymore, and grandparents should respect parents' wishes regarding it. Also, many grandparents might not have the energy or vigilance required for a toddler. It's important for your wife to understand the necessity of maintaining these safety measures. Am I the jerk for refusing to hang out less with my brothers because of my stepsister? I am 18 years old and am the youngest of 4 siblings. I have 3 older brothers, Michael, who is 28 years old, John, who is 27 years old, and Chris, who is 25 years old. Our mother passed away when I was 8, and since then my father, who is 53 years old, and my brothers have been quite protective of me. I had father-daughter date nights with my dad and movie nights with my brothers. I think that was their way of making sure I didn't feel lonely. Last year my father got married to Melissa, who is 45 years old. She, along with her daughter Ashley, who is 18 years old, moved in with us. I always got the sense that Ashley didn't like me. She would talk to my dad and my brothers, but she never talked to me. Whenever I tried to talk to her, she would answer curtly and then walk away. I never understood why or if I did something to her, but after a few weeks of trying to get along with her without success, I gave up. We were civil to each other, and that was enough. My brothers were also on the fence about her. She keeps insisting on being invited to our movie nights, but she would always demand to see a movie she liked even if none of us liked it. She kept trying to cuddle with my brothers, which they find uncomfortable and weird because they don't really know her. Chris actually told her to knock it off because he didn't like that she was so touchy with him. Recently, I had my 18th birthday. It was fun and low-key, and I received wonderful gifts. The next day, Ashley came to me and told me that it was unfair that my brother's gifts to me were better than their gifts to her for her birthday last June. For context, my brothers each gave her a $200 gift card to different stores so she could buy what she liked because they didn't really know her. They gave her gifts to be civil. My brothers got me a personalized perfume, a signed copy of an entire book series that I've been obsessed about lately, and a personalized planner with messages and quotes on each page. I will admit that they put more thought into my gifts, but I think it's fair since they don't really know her. Ashley started crying, saying that I always got everything and she got nothing. She then demanded that I stop hanging out with them. She said that if I didn't hang out with my brothers so much, then they would pay more attention to her. She also wanted me to tell them to treat her like they treated me because she was also their sister now. I told her that I wouldn't force my brothers to do something they didn't like. She insisted that I call my brothers right at that moment to tell them that I would hang out less with them and that they should get Ashley better gifts. I refused. Apparently, she told her friends and cousins because I've been getting messages from them telling me I'm a spoiled, selfish kid, so I'm second-guessing myself. So, am I the asshole? You are not the one to blame. Your stepsister's behavior is really strange, especially her obsession with having a good relationship with your brothers, but not you. Being jealous of your relationship with them and trying to bond by cuddling with them is just plain weird. Over time, relationships should naturally develop, but she can't expect to be treated like a sister when she's so cold towards you. Am I the jerk for not letting go of a comment my spouse made about killing our dog? I, a 25-year-old female, and my husband, a 33-year-old male, have a dog named Peppa who is 10 years old. I have had this dog since I was 15. And she was my absolute baby. As I gained stepchildren and my own baby, Peppa kind of took a back burner. Both of our dogs will urinate and defecate in the house sometimes, even though we take them out regularly. They have tons of hair and are a lot to handle with a full-time baby at home, especially with the going to the bathroom inside where my baby walks and crawls. Recently, Peppa has nipped at my baby twice. She has never broken the skin, but this is very concerning as my baby is at eye level to Peppa. My baby wasn't doing anything to provoke or even touch Peppa. She also has a hard time holding her urine, which seems to have gotten worse. She periodically has a limp. We don't have a lot of money, and frankly, we can barely keep up with the dogs as is. I'm wondering and have been commenting on how I might need to call a vet to put her down. If we can't afford that, we would unfortunately have to do it the old-fashioned way and have my uncle, who is rather heartless, do it. That is not at all what I want, as I want her safe in my arms when she goes. But I also truly don't know how we are going to afford putting her down, or even if it's the right call. I mentioned this to my husband after she had another accident, and I said I don't know what we are going to do. He said, I would have no problem going out back and putting her down. I have no attachment to her. Truly, I was baffled. I responded with, so you wouldn't even have to think twice about killing her? And he said, yeah. My stepchild was there and asked what we would do with Peppa's body. I had said we would bury it at our house. My husband then said, I don't want that bad juju at my house. I just blankly and angrily looked at him. He said, it was a joke, and I responded with, jokes are supposed to make people laugh, and walked away. Later, we went to talk about it, and he defended what he said since I had mentioned my uncle in the past. I said that it was so insensitive, and he agreed and gave an I'm sorry, but I still stand by what I said. I am baffled. This is truly unacceptable to me. To say this to your wife who absolutely loves this creature, even though since having a child, it has been way harder having her. I have said a million times how much I'm going to break when she dies, especially since she's the last animal I had with my recently deceased father, and he still thinks what he said is worth standing behind. So, am I in the wrong for not being able to let this go? You are not the jerk. Your husband made multiple insensitive comments about your dog when he knew that this was a hard time for you. It doesn't sound like your dog is at a place where it needs to be put down or cruelly, and very likely illegally, killed by someone. If you're unable to provide the care these dogs need, there are others who can. Look into options for rehoming your dog. There are rescues and people who specifically take in senior dogs. Am I the jerk for pressuring my pregnant friend for money she owes me but refuses to pay even after a month has passed? My friend sent me $80 through Cash App and asked me to transfer it to her. Her card was not connected and showed a failed message, but I was not notified and sent the $80 by accident, leaving my debit card in the negatives. I asked her for the money back since she was now $80 up. She refused and gave the excuse that her card was being delivered and Cash App was acting weird. I agreed with her and we moved on. I messaged her the next day, and she gave me an estimated date of when her card would arrive, which was a week later. She told me her card arrived, but she needed to pick it up from her PO. I called her the day after, and she told me she still had not picked it up. My account was still negative and overdrawn. I added $30 to keep it under $50 to avoid the overdraft fee. The total after waiting the whole week was $114. If I had not added funds myself, the total would have been over $500. She told me she got her payment from her job and it needed to clear. I understood and waited more. The next day, she told me she handed the money to her mother to Zelle me. I asked her why she would do that, and she got angry despite my understanding. Her mother did not know how to use Zelle, disappeared for a week, and left the money with her niece, who then gave it to her mother. My friend gave me her aunt's number. I messaged the aunt, who started insulting me and refusing to pay me back, calling me derogatory names and making fun of me. I told my friend, and she refused to acknowledge her aunt's actions or pay me back herself because this isn't my debt. If I pay it back, they'll get comfortable and do it again. At this point, it has been a month. I confronted her and told her that I did not care. This was her mistake, and she should own up to it. She threatened to block me and cut me off if I kept pissing her off. I kept blaming this on her, telling her this would have been over if she sent me the money. I told her I did not care about her mistakes. I sent her the money, not her mom, aunt, or anyone else in her family. She refuses to acknowledge her wrongdoings and keeps referring me to her aunt, who is a freeloader. I started ignoring her calls and blocked her crazy aunt who keeps insulting me. It is not about the money. It is about the principle that she promised to repay me but complains when I ask about my money. It has been a month. You are not in the wrong here. It cost you just $80 to find out she isn't your friend and will not have your back. She has no intention of ever paying you back, and it's clear she doesn't value the friendship. Never lend her money again, no matter how desperate she is. In the future, she'll just find another excuse and make you out to be the bad guy for wanting your money back. Am I the jerk for keeping the lost wages money paid to my child after they totaled both of my cars? My 17-year-old son has been working hard all summer to buy a new car for his senior year. We had given him an old Volkswagen Beetle during his junior year because he is honestly a great kid. He stays out of trouble, sets and meets goals, and has already earned himself a full scholarship for powerlifting to a great college. The Beetle is on its last leg, and he decided to work all summer doing concrete to buy himself a nicer vehicle instead of fixing the Beetle. To help him, I offered to let him drive for the summer the Ford Focus I inherited when my mother died, under the condition that he would keep oil in it. Despite reminders, he forgot, and the Focus broke down. Luckily, I still had my wonderful 2002 Tahoe that was still going strong with 270,000 miles on the odometer. I let him drive the Tahoe to finish out the summer and agreed to just walk my daughter to the babysitter and myself to work. 2 weeks later, I woke up to find out from the sheriff's department that my son was in a major accident. Thankfully, he was okay, but my Tahoe, which he had been using, was totaled. The accident occurred because he fell asleep driving to work after working 12 hours in the July heat and then going to the gym the day before. He was not speeding or using his phone, and his seatbelt saved his life. He had rolled my Tahoe going 55 miles per hour. While I am relieved he is safe, I am left without a car, and expenses are piling up. The Tahoe was towed for $380, which insurance did not cover. We only had liability insurance, which has now increased. It covered personal injury and lost wages for him only. My son was not injured and was back at work and the gym 3 days later. My husband and I, who paid the mortgage and all the bills, received nothing for our lost wages after having to leave work to deal with the accident and take him to the hospital. My son went on that weekend to buy an old truck from a coworker, using parts from the Tahoe to fix it up. This included the brand new battery and tires I had put in my Tahoe. I insured and tagged his new truck. My son went on a pre-planned vacation, and I sent him $100 from the $470 lost wages check he received. When he found out it was from the insurance, he got very upset with me as if I was robbing him. Am I wrong for keeping the remaining $370 to put toward a new vehicle for myself? I love my son, and am thankful he is unharmed, but the Tahoe was my only reliable vehicle, and we were already struggling financially. You acted correctly. Your son wasn't speeding or driving recklessly like a lot of teenagers do, but driving while that tired is similar to driving drunk. He's lucky to be alive and needs to understand the costs and realities of driving, insurance, and accidents. Since it wasn't his car, it's only fair that some of the insurance money went towards replacing the vehicle. Am I the jerk for telling my parents they overlook me all the time? I am a 16-year-old female and the youngest of 5 children. I am also the only one of my parents' kids left at home. I love my family, but there are many times when I feel overlooked by my parents. One recurring issue is that my parents always tell others that all their kids got to name a sibling. As the youngest, I did not. They bring this up in casual conversation, and it stings to hear them say all their kids did this because I did not name anybody. It is true that my siblings all got to name someone. I mentioned to my parents a couple of times how I wished I could name a sibling. They said we would get a pet in the future and I could name the pet to make it fair. We got a dog when I was 9. Guess who did not get to name the pet? In the end, my parents decided it needed to be a family vote, and not just me naming the dog. They also brag a lot about how accomplished all their kids are and how they all breezed through school. I struggle. I have learning disabilities, so my grades are inconsistent at best. It stings when they brag because they cannot be talking about me. It feels like they forget about me or overlook me. My oldest sister is expecting her first child. My parents encouraged her to do what they did with future kids and have her kids name each other because all of you loved it. My sister pointed out that not everyone did. And what about the fact that I was always a little sad about it? They had no idea what she was talking about and said all of us loved naming each other. When my family is all together, my parents always get a cake to celebrate. They get a filling that everyone else likes except for me, peanut butter and almond. They describe the cake as being perfect because everyone likes it. If I mention that I do not like it, they will say they forgot and that I can have a chocolate bar. This stuff is so frequent that it has built up over time. A couple of days ago, I asked to talk to my parents, and I mentioned how overlooked I feel by them when they do these things. I also told them it happens frequently enough that I feel like they always overlook me. My parents told me I was being dramatic, and that not everything is about me. I told them not everything, but surely they can acknowledge I am their kid too, and I do not have a younger sibling, so not all their kids got to name one. Or the fact that they promised I could name our dog and then decided to go with the popular vote. Or how they talk like every kid they have is amazing in school when they know I struggle. My parents told me I was being whiny and that it was not how I should behave at 16. Am I the asshole? You are not in the wrong. It sounds like you are the invisible child, and unfortunately, the tradition had to break with you. Still, by your account, they really don't see what they are doing to you. even if your siblings try to acknowledge your unhappiness. Maybe you should talk with your other siblings and try to get through to your parents with their support. So glad your sister has your back. Good luck, OP. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.